That's number one. You kind of reset.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy is my smart and beautiful co-host, life partner, business partner, boss.
I do it all.
Strategist, marketer, everything. We have great guests today with us. We have Marc George and Blake Bomberger. And I'm going to tell you more about them in a second, but let me explain what the Real Health Podcast is. And what it is we take all the latest news and information from mainstream media regarding health, wellness, diseases, new drugs, whatever it may be. We summarize it for you, we explain it to you. We tell you how to apply it to your life, and the purpose of why we do this is so we can help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. So today, because of Unrivaled Gym, which is an amazing gym, opened how long ago?
December, 8 months. December, 8 months, going on 9. Yeah.
8 to 9 months ago, and we've been both working out over there, and it's amazing. Great atmosphere, great community. You guys have done a great job. So we have some articles we're going to go through. We're going to talk about a bodybuilder regarding his injuries and so on. We're going to talk a little bit about cortisol and the stress hormone. We'll talk about alcohol, but we're also going to let it just kind of flow.
Sure.
And talk about whatever. So Blake, tell us, give us your background, like who you are, what made you who you are, what impacted you.
Keep it short.
You know, yeah, you know.
We have all day.
From being a police officer to what you do now, all of that, it'd be really cool.
So to kind of summarize, I'll try to put it in a nutshell as best I can. Been lifting in a gym, had a barbell in my hand at 9 years old. Competitive powerlifting at 10. That was my first competition then.
Wow.
So it was.
How much did you lift at 10?
Oh man, it was at a YMCA. That was not in a federation though.
Doesn't matter.
I squatted, I think like 85 pounds
At 10 years old.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I benched I think there were 5s on the end of each bar, and I think it was a 35-pound bar, so it was like 45 pounds.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, it was my dad kind of directed me that way. I was not to get too personal, it was more of a way to find some positivity in some things we were going through family wise, and not such a great scene. So it was instead of taking anger out in other ways, I was kind of directed towards the gym. And it took me a couple years to kind of get that grounded, so to speak, and kind of figure out how to channel that. But once I could channel that at 10, 11, going into 12 years old, that's when I was in WMPF lifting and powerlifting, playing football as well. But powerlifting just kind of skyrocketed. I blossomed really early.
That's awesome.
It's like, I wish it blossomed a little later. It's like it all started at 13, but there wasn't really anyone in my class at 11 to 12 years old, but it was more so just the ability to channel that aggression. And I found out how to tap into that and use it in weightlifting. So really weightlifting, it has saved me in a lot of different ways.
That's
It's
awesome.
not just, it went from powerlifting to plyometrics to speed training for football. And I did some Olympic lifting for a little bout.
Wow.
And then, that led into bodybuilding going into college. I didn't play football. I would train my whole life for football. That's all I did.
Wow.
Training all
What
day
position?
football. Linebacker and center / blocking fullback. I didn't play blocking fullback in high school, but that's what I was getting recruited for in college because I'm short, stout, not that fast. Just packed a hard punch.
We like to say vertically challenged here.
Challenged, 100%. So yeah, it was an eye opener though. I thought it was more. I was obviously wanting to play D1, and then realized pretty quick that that's not going to happen. And then D2 was kind of like maybe kind of off the table too. It was more so D3 schools, and I just didn't want to play at a D3 school. Went D2 route, didn't work out with walking on, and I just kept lifting. Like that's all I knew. So. I kept lifting, and then that went into to bodybuilding. I kind of fell in love with bodybuilding senior year of high school, though.
Okay.
So
Who was the first bodybuilder you looked up to?
Frank McGrath, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I knew all the greats like Arnold, Sergio Leva, Lee Haney. I knew all of them because my dad was heavily into lifting. He loved bodybuilding as well.
Okay.
He never competed, but I knew who all those guys were, the old school guys. But what caught my eye first was the Animal Owner's Manual, actually, and it was like the old school Evan Senapani, Frank McGrath, all those guys. And I thought,
awesome.
wow, I read through that. I'm like, this is it. So at junior and senior year of high school, I was already packing my meals. and like putting them in my locker, like tuna packets and stuff. You know, I hated being normal. I didn't like being average or normal since a young age.
Everybody should hate being normal.
Yeah, my dad had a lot of influence there. Like he wanted me to be great, and he's like, to be great, you can't do what everyone else is doing.
You know what wisdom? I mean, even in, you know, directing you into the gym, what a healthy outlet. In a great way, especially for boys, right?
Yeah.
Like it is so super important. Like my kids get so upset during the school year because we let them have very little electronics during the week.
Right.
So they're asking for it, and I'm like, okay, well then you have to do a workout.
Right.
Tell them what you did yesterday.
So I made them. They wanted activity today, so I'm like, well then
They wanted screen time today.
They wanted screen time today. So yesterday I said, okay, well you have to do, you know, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups. You have to do 20 jumping jacks, 2 sets of 30-second planks, and then you have to go out and shoot 100 baskets. And I said, you have to make 100. Awesome. It's not just shoot. You have to make 100
so
baskets.
the incentive to also make sure you're performing at a
don't
optimal level is also there.
Emotions,
right.
So that's
100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it was funny because I did that for my youngest.
They're calling
too.
Child Protective Services right now.
Go right ahead.
Now you have to.
Go right ahead.
I think it's fantastic.
You know, and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe I should have had my 8-year-old do a few less shots. And so by the time I went out, he was like pouring down sweat. He was like, I've got 80. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have lowered that. So I went out, I was driving because I had to get stuff ready for our networking event today. And I was like, you know what? You're a little younger than your brother. I was going to have you do 90. I was going to down. He goes, I'm already at 90. He's like, I got this.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm like, that's fantastic.
Creating confidence, creating
Absolutely.
the chip on the shoulder a little bit. Like,
And man, I figured we
thing.
needed to do something opposite. If they're sitting, they need to be active, right? And man, they loved it.
Yep.
So they weren't mad about it. They weren't upset about it, you know? So come on, Protective Services. So at least my kids are healthy.
but I'm sure that they get screen time right after it anyway.
Right.
Right. So it's a nice
It's a give and a
balance.
take.
Right.
So it's
exactly.
like, hey, it's not like you can't do screen time. Let's just not focus all our time and attention on it.
Right.
100%.
Well, because they go to a school that on Wednesdays there's no sports. It's Frederick Christian Academy.
Okay.
So Wednesdays there's no practice. The two of them are on the soccer team. So Monday and Tuesday they have soccer. But yesterday for some reason they didn't have soccer, and then
Games.
today there's no soccer. That's why they wanted screen time today. So
Yeah. So love
Mark.
that.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
tell us about you.
Yes. So you didn't, I guess, like go into like career-wise and stuff like that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just getting through everything up until like lifting and working out. My, I guess, like journey in terms of fitness stuff didn't start nearly as young as Blake. Like, I was an active kid. I played sports and things like that, but I didn't really know what the gym really was, and like I wasn't in it as much. The first time I actually really got into the gym was almost accidental. I feel like a lot of people do this, but it was my high school girlfriend, and we broke up. And then I remember we hung out every day, all day long, all the time. And then that first day, it was at nighttime, I broke up and we were driving home. I woke up the next morning, I'm like, what do I do with? I have all this time. And I just kind of sat around all day, and I like didn't really know what to do. And I was like angry at myself. I'm like, I'm gonna go run tonight. So I like got my shoes. I was ready to go. Like I packed, like I like drank water all day, whatever. And then like that night, I laced up my shoes and I just started running.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how far. And I just, there's no like phones and GP. Like I couldn't track it. I was
You were like Forrest Gump.
I'm just
you
gonna
were just
go.
running.
And then I got halfway in, and I was like, running sucks. This isn't good. But I'm like, I'm gonna make it all the way around my neighborhood though, because I'm like, that's not that far. After the fact, I looked it up. It was like 6 miles or something. I didn't know. So I got like all the way to the other end of the neighborhood. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. I'm good. But then I'm like, I gotta get back home. And I was like, oh, this is not gonna be good. So like I started running back, and it was like that first time I felt that conflict of this is really hard, but something in my brain was like, just do it anyway. And then I remember I made it home. My calves were on fire, shin splints. But when I got home, I felt such, I know, but I felt such a sense of accomplishment. Like I just conquered this exercise. And I didn't even know what I was going to do. And it just felt really good. So then I did that, and I ran every night that first 2 weeks or whatever. And then I signed up for Planet Fitness. I asked my mom if I could sign up. She's like, well, you got to pay for it. And I was like, okay. And I went to Planet Fitness, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just went in there and I started working out, and it just felt really good. And then I just kept doing it. When I went to college, I kind of went into college mode and I was just partying and hanging out, and I joined my fraternity and I was very involved in my fraternity. But towards the end of it, I kind of fell back in love with bodybuilding again, just because I missed it. And I didn't want to be at the bars and drinking and doing, I felt like I'm meant to be doing something different. I don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing. So like, I remember I would wait and like during happy hour on Fridays, I'd let everyone go to happy hour. I'm like, I'm going to the gym because no one's going to be there. And it was awesome and it felt good. And then the last phase of it is when I left college to start working, I let the gym go again. I was working, I was traveling all the time for work, and then I gained a bunch of weight. And I remember, I still have the picture. I took a picture of myself. I was in a hotel because I was traveling every week. And I was just out the night before until like 3 o'clock in the morning, drinking with my boss, trying to like impress all them and whatever. I went to 7-Eleven. I ate 3 hot dogs. I still remember I ate 3 hot dogs and a Reese's peanut butter cup. And I felt awful. I woke up in the morning. I looked myself in the mirror and it was the grossest I've ever looked. And I was like, I will never allow that to happen again. And I took a picture of it and I saved it. I still have the picture in my phone. Wow. And I'm like, that will never happen again. And then I went back to the gym, and then since then I've basically been training. We can get into it later, but then I like found my first coach and we got into bodybuilding, all that stuff. But like my really quest in bodybuilding was more like 24-ish, 25 when I really took it seriously. But so I went through these like different iterations of, I found exercise, I kind of lost touch of it. I found it again, I lost touch of it, and then it really like stuck. And then once I started competing, then I was just in love, and it's my life, it's our livelihood, it's everything now.
That's awesome. Yeah. But what a great opportunity to be able to use that to connect with your clients and and you know, the people that are coming through the gym, because that is what so many people encounter, is this stop and start, you know, throughout trying to get their health, and it's not easy. No. It can be a really tough journey.
The ebbs and flows are hard, and it's almost harder to restart than it is to start the first. Like the ignorance of starting the first time, you're like, it can't be so bad. But like when you fall out of touch with it, and then you gain a bunch of weight and you feel unhealthy, and then you start again. I mean, I don't want to go into this, but like, because it's a long story, but I went through that even with building the gym. It was probably, outside of all the stories I just told, the phase of the 2.5 years of us building the gym was the most unhealthy, or out of the gym I've been, mostly for things beyond my control. But like getting back, I'm still not fully back into it. It has taken me, and Blake, because of his surgery too. Like it's, I mean, I've been trying to get fully back into it. I hate to admit it, but like since the beginning of this year, and it's just hard. And we have so many different competing priorities and stressors and multiple businesses we're running, so it's tough. But you're right that it allows both Blake and I, even him on a bigger level, to really connect with our clients that we're coaching, and members of the gym, because we're like, I want to sign up for the gym, but I'm scared. Like, dude, we get it. Like we've been there, and it makes you more relatable and a real human being. We're not like these elite physiques. We're like, just do what we're doing. Like that, it's so out of touch at that point.
Right. And it's not realistic. I mean, we all hit seasons. You know, I battle that right now because I'm in a transition, a really busy season, and there are just days that it's harder to get there. Right. So then you have to go, okay, these are days I have to make sure my food is spot on.
That's
right. Yes. Or if there's a day where I couldn't prep, then you do the best you can. You make sure you get your workout in. And it's just about balance and doing the best you can in that season, and not going, oh my gosh, I can't do it all, you know, and that happens. Towel in. Exactly. And that's what most people do at some point in that health, you know, that health journey. We just go, it's just too much. And then when we're trying to get back into it, what's the one thing that you think? I always go, gosh, if I hadn't, you know, thrown in the towel, where would I be right now?
Which doesn't matter because it's done and over with.
Yeah.
So you have to move forward.
You just have to.
It's so painful.
Well, I used to do this. I used to look like this. So, well, used to. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right. That's over.
Let's go forward.
Yeah.
But the one thing I tell people too is, if you've been there before, you can and will get there 100%. Again, because you've done it. You don't have to prove that you're not. It's not uncharted territory. You just have to do the habits that you already know exist and just engage with them, and you'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have that conversation with myself every day, so like it's because it's challenging.
Well, I think it's really hard when you come from a background. I mean, literally, like I just said, from when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I was even eating semi-healthy even at a very young age.
Which
my dad had like egg whites and oats and stuff. And that was at like 11, 12 years old. That's protein crazy. Bars and whey. And I had whey on my cereal. It was oh god, it was terrible. People,
I was eating bagel bites
about whey like protein powders. I'm like,
back then,
American Standard Whey was like the first whey I ever had. It tasted like actual chalk.
Awful. Yeah.
I was like, Dad, I can't eat this. He's like, all right, just put it in your like Reese's Puffs, you know. And he would like put it in there and mix it around. He's like, God, do it, man. You want to go D1 or not? So that's it.
You know how awesome though to throw your dream back in your face to keep you motivated.
And that's all he had to say, and I was like, I'm gonna eat it.
I'm
gonna eat it because that's what I want to do.
That's good.
Yeah.
I had soda with every lunch and every dinner 7 days a week.
Oof.
I
Wow.
drank at least a glass of soda
Wow.
Yeah.
growing up.
You're probably still paying for that.
As soon as we moved to the U.S., that was-
Yeah. I feel like it's normally opposite. Normally people that move here, they're like, I didn't have sodas and all fast food and whatever. And then because I came to the U.S., now I'm drinking all the soda and whatever and stuff. Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh. But so I have a question because there's an identity to being a bodybuilder, right? And there's a competitive nature that and some people just have that. I think every male has some level of competitive nature to them. I just feel like that's just in our blood. You know, but obviously some have it more than others.
Yes.
But so do you think this is a really weird question, but I think you'll get it. You think bodybuilding chooses you, or do you think you choose bodybuilding? It's kind of
Very
deep.
philosophical.
It is, and I love the question.
I love the question too, and I think bodybuilding. I think bodybuilding chooses you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not glamorous.
No.
It's 99% grind.
Right. No, that's right.
Maybe 1% glory, and most people don't make the 1%.
That's right. No. But for me, just at that young age, running up, we had a mountain called Texture Mountain, and I had to run up that mountain, and it was unbelievable. The incline on that mountain, it was almost impossible. I couldn't even ride my bike up until I was like maybe 11, 10, 8, 9. I couldn't get my bike up the whole way. I had to like zigzag the way up. And my dad would take us up there. He's like, got to climb it. It was a challenge. It was a fun competition between my sister and I. And I used to run up that hill. I used to go down to the park and set up cones. And like in the summer when no one's even there, like no one told me to do those things. I just wanted, again, I didn't want to be normal, right? So the whole circling back to bodybuilding, finding you was like, here's this thing that seems almost merely impossible. It's so demanding. It's so extreme. It's 24 hours a day and you don't turn it off. I'm like, oh, dude, this is it.
Yeah.
I was like I thought football, I loved that the most. And then once I found out the lifestyle of you got to get your water in, got to get your supplementation in, have to train really hard every day. I was already training hard every day. I thought my eating was on point until I started to really dive in on my own and educate myself on like how to get optimal protein and, how to spread out the meals, how to push the food, how to pull back on the food. And then seeing the physique changes, just living that lifestyle. And every day you can step out of bed. What a great tool to step out of bed every day and say, what do I have to do to get better today? That's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you do it over and over and over, and you can do everything perfect and still lose.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that come from it that help you with discipline and everything. It was just like, I knew right away. I bit that bug before I even competed.
Yeah.
Going into freshman year. And then when I competed, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
My friends, the girl I was dating at the time was like, she almost broke up with me. She was like, hey, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, are you going to do it again? I'm like, oh, 100%.
Well, what's
And
funny
she's
is
like, you just killed yourself. I was like, yep.
you said, and this points to the mentality of a true bodybuilder is you said, I woke up every morning and said, what do I need to do to get better? The vast majority of the population does not ask that question.
What I need to do to not get fat today?
No, they wouldn't even ask that question. They would say, what would I have to give up? Right? I mean, it's just that simple
true.
flip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what's the bare minimum I can do to get the results and
To get some
just
results.
get by?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not what I need to do to be the best.
Yeah.
It's just I just want to just make it.
Yeah.
And that's
Where you either have that or not, as far as like when things get uncomfortable and things get really, really bad. I said this before in other videos and podcasts we've done. When I don't know if this is from childhood stuff, I don't know if it's good or bad, but like when I feel like my back's against the wall and I'm cornered, that's when I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn it on. And I'm not going to lose.
Yeah.
Definitely not going to lose in this situation. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to crawl out of this
Right.
fight. Yeah. And so that's, I don't know. I don't know where that comes from.
No.
My family isn't like that.
Yeah.
Even my dad's not like that.
Yeah.
I thought he was. He's
Right.
not.
I
He's
think
not.
there's very few people that really have that.
Yeah.
And I think it may stem a little bit from that entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And you never know which came
I
first,
see it
right?
now.
Yeah, the
Right.
correlation.
Yeah.
I think you actually need that. Maybe not every entrepreneur has that, but
Yeah.
I think in order to do things like bodybuild, to build a business, to all of those things, they really take that kind of mentality.
100%. If people have a gambling addiction, they need to become an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And they'll forget all about the gambling.
Yep.
Because
No, it's
it
100%
feeds
right.
the same
Yep.
adrenaline
Yep.
Yeah.
as when you make a bet, you know? It's
true.
So,
Yep.
and then if you have any addictive personality at all, too, bodybuilding's great for you.
Great for it.
I think that both of us in our own right do, and
we
that's
do.
just how I,
We do.
I know that from my biological past, that's in my family in some degree, addictive personalities and things like that. And so I think that I have just kind of accidentally channeled it through my bodybuilding and like obsessive nature of it. So to your question, I 100% think that bodybuilding just identifies and defines you. Just like when I started running that first time, like I said, and I just
Right.
I felt this uncomfortable feeling and I leaned into it instead of running from it. I didn't have a conversation with myself. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
It just, my God-given thought was this way feels better to me. And then I just kept going and then I got addicted to that feeling and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then when I met my first trainer in the gym and he was like, hey, you look pretty good. Like, do you compete? And I was like, in what? Like, I didn't even know what bodybuilding was. But again, it like sought me out. And then I did my first, I remember still with Frank, my first trainer, he did a free workout with me and we trained back and we trained lats and we did a lap pull down and he set me up, he showed me how to do it and I did my first set of real lap pull downs and I stood up, he's like, put your arms out, and I did my first ever front relax pose, which was probably terrible, but the feeling of your brain connecting with your body and seeing it visually and you're like, whoa, I was like, I did that, and I'm like, dude, we got to do more of this, and it's just
Side note,
there.
not everyone feels like that. Mark is just very genetically gifted. In that
No, it wasn't like I had these Roddy Coleman lats. I just saw it, and it just chooses you. And then we always say to people, you have to be pretty kind of crazy to want to do this. No one wants to wake up and eat 6 meals a day and eat 99 1-ground turkey and mustard, and no one really loves to do that. We like to do it. Blake might love to do it, but
Blake's like,
it's in my lunch
I
bag
was
now,
thinking
man.
about my turkey.
Turkey and mustard.
I know that the alternative is if I think back even the past 10 years of my life, the best I've ever felt mentally, physically, emotionally, all those things is when my most recent show, which sadly was 2017, I prepped for 8.5 months. I can think back to that entire 8.5 months. That was the best I performed, I felt, I looked at everything. My life was so optimal then because I was a robot. And some people hate that, but I know for me, I thrive off of the monotony of being a robotic bodybuilder because all other facets of my life become better. I mean, I was at a very high performing consulting job and my work got better from it. My travel, I was so organized because I woke up every hour. There was something to do. It was in my calendar, eat this meal, go to the bathroom, drink this water, go to this meeting every minute of the day. And so that stresses people out. I love it. And that's why, we're super busy. But, I look at Blake's calendar book, look at my phone because it's 2024, and our calendars are slammed. Even Blake just got back from vacation. It was wide open. And then a day later, red everywhere, just slammed. But, I like that we're go, 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 go.
Right.
And bodybuilding is the same way. It just draws you in.
Well, can I say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
Another one. I think we should title this podcast In the Mind of a Bodybuilder, because you also said, and I want to point these out because it's so contrary to the general public's thought process. And you said when it was uncomfortable, I leaned in. Again, complete opposite of what the general population does, right? We go, that was uncomfortable. No, that didn't feel good.
I got to go home and I got to take a breather.
Right. And the reality is we all have habits.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have
Good and
habits
bad,
we're doing
Yeah.
all the
Oh, yeah.
time. And if we look at the general population, they're not great habits.
Yeah.
And that's why obesity is on the rise. And I mean, it's astronomical. That's why we have the level of heart disease and diabetes and all of that. It's because we have some pretty standard habits, but they're all terrible.
Yeah.
They are.
So if we could and we talk about this all the time, you don't have to make 100% change. You don't have to do a 180 in your food, but you do have to improve a lot of different things by a little bit, and you'll start seeing massive
Well,
improvements.
that's why what I was going to say is everyone there's thinking, well, I don't want to start lifting because I don't want to get too big, and I go, look at what it takes. Look at that's what it takes, and
we're
even
not too
then
big and I'm
you're not going to
trying.
get too big.
Yeah.
So
You're
cut that
never gonna
out.
get that
Especially there's so many ladies who go, I only do cardio in the gym.
I don't
I go,
wanna
no,
get
you
too
have
bulky.
to lift.
Yeah.
There's no way. Your hormones will keep you back.
Yeah.
You cannot get too big. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Not possible.
Very true.
So, a long time ago, when was it? We had two boxers, and we were at a river. And the river, they told us this river it's really low, but to put the dogs in, they'll play or whatever. One of the boxers was smaller than the other one.
Ramin was a baby.
Ramin was a baby in a stroller. Our oldest was just a few years old. And so the dogs are playing. Next thing I know, I guess it had rained a lot. Next thing I know, the smaller boxer is getting washed away downstream. And I look down and she's real far away and I go, come. And she's trying, but she can't come. And every once in a while her head goes underwater, comes back up. So I took my cell phone, my wallet, handed it to Brandy, and I went. And so just a few steps later, the water's up to here. And I'm going with the current, but it's still hard. I'm thinking it should be easy. I go, maybe I can swim with the current and pick up my feet and start swimming. And no, the water's just rushing past me. So I go, I need to walk. But it's still really hard. So 10 minutes into it, my heart's pounding, my lungs are burning. This is like ultimate cardio. But I see the dog getting further and further. And again, like she's facing me, swimming toward me. And I can tell she's getting exhausted. And every once in a while, her head goes under and comes back up. And I keep yelling for her so she knows I'm coming for her so she won't quit. But I'm getting really tired. I'm like, God, help me take one more step. Help me take one more step. And I keep going. And I got to a point where every muscle is burning and I'm exhausted. And I feel like I'm not making any progress whatsoever. But you just keep going and all of a sudden. So anyways, long story short, it took an hour of me chasing her, literally an hour of not stopping, pushing through. Every step feels like I'm like walking on, you're walking in water. It was hard. And finally grabbed her, pulled her to the side. I'm like, how are we going to get back? So we went up the bank of the river and went into this other place. Finally came out. So Brandy she's like, oh gosh, my husband and my dog are gone.
I have the other dog and the two kids. And I mean, it, like you said, it took forever. And here's my 4-year-old going, is Daddy going to be okay? And I'm like, I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm a realist.
And I can't call her because I gave her my cell phone.
I'm like, I don't know. I have no way to know anything. I'm hoping everything will be fine.
I literally multiple times thought, okay, I'm just going to let the dog go because I'm not going to get there. But thankfully I did. My point for all of this is that changed my life because now when I feel tired, I know I'm only at like 30%.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I got another 70% left because I was tired 10 minutes into that hour wanting to quit.
But what pushed you? What'd you realize? It's it.
Something broke. Something broke. I'm like, and so Naveed, my oldest, and I, you've seen us train together. So we do crunches after certain workouts.
Don't you guys do like 100 some? How many do you do?
300.
300 crunches.
300. And we do them slow. We do it on the physio ball. And I say you got to go all the way down into extension and then come back up, not just little crunches. You go all the way down, all the way up. And so the first time we did it, I did 100. He stopped at like 40. And I said, do you want to know the secret to be able to do 100? He goes, yeah, what's the secret? I said, it won't hurt more. When it starts hurting, that pain just stays. But the pain doesn't increase. He's like, really? It's not going to hurt more? No. It'll ramp up, then the pain stays. And so you can just keep going. He's like, okay. So next day he did 100. Just because he's
that
like,
little flip.
Isn't that amazing?
And then he got screen time, so it was perfect.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's all. It's so spot on. Yeah, that's
but
great.
it is probably the most mental sport. I know, not to downplay any other sport or the athletes that play it, because especially the higher level athletes, I mean, it's all a head game. You know what I mean? Like,
I think any like sport, not to cut you off, sorry. I think every sport at that super high level, is just as demanding in its own way.
100%.
Whether it's golf, football, swimming, whatever it is.
And I think if you asked any of the athletes, it would, number one would be that headspace. Like that is what carries them the furthest. When everybody else gives up, like you're saying, like 10 minutes in, that person probably could have gone a lot further had they not done that, right? But they just didn't have the ability to tap into that part of themselves that allowed them to take it to the next level, to just keep going.
You lift.
They let their dog die.
literally, you come to Unrivaled, you're gonna lift heavier, harder, and longer just because of the environment you're in.
That's
Yeah.
it. Well, hey,
Fact.
it's funny you say that because that is, we've had a lot of people, a lot,
Yep.
like more than we thought. That's the vision we created, right? We had a lot of vision. There's a lot of things that we wanted to create, but one of the biggest ones was creating an environment. This isn't a gym just that has weights in it and whatever. It's the people that are in it. When you walk in, lifting, you feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you create that?
Yeah. How?
I don't really know,
I don't
but
know how we
I
created
felt
it.
it many of times in gyms that I've trained in. You know, one of the gyms I grew up training in it changed my life, was called Fifth Street Powerhouse. It was an old warehouse. It was owned by Bob Nagel, who was like, he's like my second father.
Wow.
He turned me into a man. Like that guy, that's a whole nother story.
Nice.
It was an old warehouse. It was like a fabrication welding, and then we were on the second story. There was no AC. It wasn't really a gym. It was just this like warehouse that had gym equipment in it. Some of the best power lifters in the world. Gene Reichlek came out of there.
Wow.
Benched over 1,000 pounds. I mean, I was around guys and D1 athletes at 14, 15 years old. I was like,
Nice.
you would walk in that gym. First off, you drive into the parking lot and you're like, what in the world? And then there's no sign. Actually, there was a sign on the old door. And you'd walk up these stairs, these creaky stairs. There's water dripping. It smells bad. There's welding people down. You're like, what? Where am I? You get the whole way up to the stairs, and then it's like this long hallway that literally, it's like a movie. Like the lights are like flickering a little bit.
Scary movie.
It's like, yeah, it's like a horror. Then you walk in, and then you're like, okay, it's just kind of welcoming. And then you hear just like metal and guys just going, and you're seeing everything from a D1 wrestler to a 350-pound top-ranked powerlifter in the world, to we had baseball players that were D1 come out. I mean, there was serious athletes. That was the first time I was like, wow, man, this is a new game.
That's
This is a
awesome.
new game. And that it's that back to the environment
Right.
feeling. You like, I don't know what you felt, but it was just like this is awesome. I want to work. And I'm like, I don't know how we create that, but we've talked about that. And Mark loves that type of environment too. Many gyms don't really have it. Now, especially your corporate style gyms, it just doesn't create that.
Right.
You're going there for the amenities for the night, just what we were talking about earlier, right? The saunas, the pools, and that's
Right.
great. If that's what you love, go for it. That's awesome.
And if
we didn't
gets
want
people
that.
into the gym, like there's a whole
Sure, that's a whole-
demographic
exactly.
that,
Yes.
and
Yes.
if that's like the portal,
That's
that's what
right.
corporate gyms are for,
That's
because
right.
they speak to the masses like that, and
Yes.
that's needed,
Yep.
right? But it's a very different feel than what you guys have created at Unrivaled.
Well, that's great.
That's
That's what we were seeking for. But we also were seeking, how do we take that environment? Because when you hear that environment, you're like, oh, I have to be elite. No, you
No,
don't.
you don't.
You can be anyone and
Right.
everyone at any age and walk in there and change your life for the better through health and fitness. Not even through health and fitness. It's about mentally stepping up.
Yeah.
Because if you mentally step up your fitness game through something that's challenging, whether it's weightlifting or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's going to bleed over to other areas of your life.
Oh,
You're going to be a
100%.
better mom, better dad, a better boss, a better employee. The list goes on.
Better leader.
So
we have an acquaintance who he does very well financially, but he hangs out with billionaires, literally billionaires. And I go, how do you get in with billionaires? He goes, it's not the size of your income or your bank account. It's the size of your vision that gets you to fit in with them. That's what they care about. And it's the same thing. You're not elite yet.
Yes.
But what's your vision? Like, I'm here to achieve something I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I want to be around people who have already done it or are doing it currently.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what creates that energy. I know.
It's who you're around.
Oh yeah, it's huge. And I've gone, let's see, I was working out last weekend and there was a girl in there, and she works her butt off. Shoulders and arms, and her lats are just
Taylor.
maybe. I didn't know her name,
Probably
but
Taylor.
She's pro, right?
But-
Yeah.
I turned to her and I go, you have really great shoulders. Like, you look really good. She's like, I love working out my shoulders. I'm like, I can tell.
see
You
that.
look really great. You know? But everybody's so kind too. Like, there's no.
As it should be.
No
Yeah.
ego. Yeah.
No
Like,
one's just
there
because you're
isn't.
performing or you look a certain way. It doesn't matter what you look like or who you are. Everyone's in there for the better.
Yes.
And that's what we've had a lot of people say that. Like they walk in, they're like, it's a little intimidating. There's a lot of equipment. It's the music's kind of loud. And then they're in there. They come in, they sign up, whatever, and they're like, this place is really welcoming.
Yeah.
I'm like, as it should be.
Yeah.
I
No one
literally
should be
can
in their
ask anybody
ego.
to spot
Yeah.
me, and
You
they
know.
do it. I can ask
Yep.
anybody a question. Hey,
Yep.
how can I, do this better? Or I was doing upright rows with the cable, and I go, okay, what's the difference between standing back so that there's an angle to the cable versus standing really close, pulling straight up? And like they'll explain it to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So getting back, so you were in consulting and
Yes.
in the business world.
Correct.
Decided you're not going to stay the physique you were, got into it.
Yes.
So then how'd you get into the supplement business from that?
So that was something. So I worked for PwC, which is the accounting firm, consulting for 7 years, and I probably knew at year 3, this is just not it. I could have stayed there forever. I could have made partner of the firm. I could have made a very nice living for myself and whatever. But I just didn't want to do that whole corporate ladder thing. I looked at my bosses and the lifestyle they lived, and they're married to their office. They're working 100 hours a week, which ironically now we're doing whatever. But like
I'm
it's
like,
just different.
welcome to
But
being more.
Yeah.
I just didn't
But
want
it's
to.
yours.
But I also knew I was intelligent enough to know this is a very good job. I worked very hard in college to get this job. I'm not going to leave with nothing. So I started looking, and I could never find an opportunity. And then it's kind of something Blake and I talk about a lot. It's all about relationships and things like that. One of my best friends from college who we met because we bartended together in college, he started Total Healthy Nutrition, which is my supplement store in Columbia. And he grew it from 1 store to 2 store to 3 stores. And he and his fiance at the time were running it, and then they parted ways with each other. And so I would always joke with him and say, like, if you ever want a business partner, like, give me a call sometime. But I didn't think he's ever going to do it. And then one day he called me and he was like, hey man, like, remember when we talked about this? Like, I'm going a different direction with the business. I would love you to consider it. And I was like, this is the opportunity. And if I hadn't prepared mentally for the opportunity when it finally hit, I wouldn't have been ready for it. So I was able to relatively quickly then go through the whole legal process, figure it out, if it makes sense, whatever, financially. And then I bought a third of the business, which was that 1 store in Columbia. And then I put in my notice to quit PwC November 15th. And that was a Friday. November 17th, I was in the store. I turned the key and I opened it, and I never looked back. And it was like that instantaneous. And it was, people always ask, they're like, how did you just like do this and like know how to run this business? I'm like,
You just did it.
2 things. Yeah. One is I spent 6 years consulting businesses. I saw their pain points, their failure points. That's what we did. We went in and fixed businesses. So I knew what to look for on a smaller scale. And 2, like Blake just said, there was no other option. This was my opportunity. I saw the opportunity. It's now or never. Seize it. So I was like, I'll just walk in that store and I'll figure it out. I don't want to rant about this, but like I don't like when people are like, I can't figure it out. Like, you can figure things out. You just have to try. But people are so afraid to figure things out, and they just crumble when they can't figure it out in like 4 seconds. And you just have to do it.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Mark's really good at that too. Like, that's a huge quality that he possesses. Is like, well, we're both like that, but like Mark has more of a unique quality of like staying patient through something and working through it. Or I'll work through it. I'll get really upset about it, pissed. But he just like he will find a way to do anything, especially when it comes to I don't know. I think some people are like, oh, you just went and did it. It's like, well, yeah, but you had this background and knowledge also.
all the
basic.
steps.
You were confident knowing that, like, if I take over this, you thought it through.
Yeah,
Right.
You planned it out. Some people are I think like now it's just instant gratification thing. People are like, yeah, you just like I left policing and you just like hop ship and left, man. I'm like, no, it was like 2 decades of lifting and like all this confidence built up and like all this knowledge base I have that I knew if I left and I could do considerably well, or at least hopefully so.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like,
Right.
oh, I'm going to go open a bank.
Right.
Like, why would I do that? I don't know anything about bank. Like, so you have to, I don't know.
Whether you realize it or not, subconsciously, before we exited our former careers, we were both subconsciously thinking. We weren't thinking about owning Unrivaled Iron Gym.
Exactly.
We were thinking about just what would it look like, how would it be, everything. Like, we send each other like videos and stuff all the time. There's one video this guy was talking about like those details even matter. Like, you're even thinking about like, what is the bathroom going to look like, and the color of the wall in the bathroom, like everything matters. So you're just spinning those things constantly in your head. Yeah. So when you finally arrive to that place, it all just makes sense. So we could walk into you guys even came when the warehouse Unrivaled was just a raw, crappy area. But like we could see through all that because we just spent obsessive amounts of time thinking about it all. And then when we walk in that first day, we're like, yeah, dude, this is, I mean, it's still not fully it, but like, this is it. Like it just makes sense that way.
Well, keyword coming back kind of around there, obsessive.
Yeah. That links back to bodybuilding. It's the same. It's the same
bodybuilding.
thing.
I learned early on when we were sitting there long nights, early mornings, meetings, driving, there's no gym. It's there. We didn't even technically have the space yet.
Yeah,
We didn't even have the
or
bank
anything.
loan
We had
or
nothing.
anything.
We had a
But like
vision.
we had this vision, and we'd spend hours and the countless hours of planning and preparation before we even had the key to the door.
Yes, and it's all
We're
for
talking months and months
yeah,
of
and it's all for
every
nothing.
day, every single day.
Yeah, because not only are you doing that and waking up and doing that, but it's while we're working our full-time
That's the other
jobs, running
thing, right.
businesses, and making $0 in the
Right.
process on Unrivaled. I mean, still to this day, like that's hard, and a lot of people do not have the mental fortitude or like just the comfort financially to work at something and make no livelihood from it. But you care that much about it that you're like, I don't even care. I know I'm probably exaggerating, but like, I don't really even care that we're not making money from it. Because we're doing what our vision is, and it's all the feedback that you say, the members say of I feel stronger, I feel better. That's why we made Unrivaled, and now that is coming to fruition. Everything else will come at some point.
Well,
in time.
you know, there's a saying: there's a season to sow and a season to reap. They are never the same season. So you guys are sowing and sowing and sowing, sowing seeds, sowing seeds, sowing seeds, watering it, sowing seeds, watering it. When the harvest comes in, there's going to be plenty.
That's right.
Because you're doing it the right way. Most people stop an inch short.
You're right.
Because you're working and putting back into the business, you're creating the name, and that's what's we don't want it to be Blake and Marc's gym. We want it to be Unrivaled.
It's bigger than
we want
us.
Unrivaled to be bigger than us.
Yeah. We don't
It's
want
like
to
a
be
way
the
of
face
life,
of the
you
gym,
know,
honestly.
like,
Like I
like-
don't, because it's not about Blake and it's not about Mark.
It needs
It's
to
about the
outlast
community
you.
and people in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It
It needs
does.
to, and that's what we always
It's like
talk
legacies.
about too.
That's how they're built.
Absolutely.
You know.
And I think those are the individuals that will always succeed at a higher level when it's outside of yourself, right? Because it's when it's just about you, it's not sustainable.
What do you have to? You have to drop ego.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, in the fitness industry, how much ego is it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of ego.
It's just,
So you know
That's why people lift too much or lift more than they should.
yeah.
So we can go down that path.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about injuries.
I think it's interesting too to kind of like rounding out this whole thing now that we brought business into it as well, of like the obsessive nature, and then the environment, and then channeling, kind of like leaning into the hard. That's why Blake and I knew. I mean, he's my best friend as well, but like we've been training partners for 6-7 years now. I knew before Unrivaled even began, we would never have an issue as business partners to get things done. I knew that I could rely on him 120% of the time from our times training together.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we trained legs, and I truly, actually, finally for once failed on a set. The only reason why I didn't fail, though, on that leg press in Coliseum is because Blake was right there pushing me to do one more than I probably should have, but because he was there to catch it, so I didn't fail. I know that sounds so trivial, but knowing that depth of trust is there in someone that you rely on, that I can just be in the set and not worry about anything else because the other person is there,
you know,
I can trust him, and I know he works just as hard, if not harder than I do, so it's always going to be there. And then that's why we've never looked back when it comes to business. People are like, don't get into business with your friend.
Don't get
It's
into business
stupid.
with
But like, I'm like, dude, the only problem we haven't had is each other.
The problem
That's
is
it.
they don't understand. Most people don't understand that. Like, this sounds super corny, but like, it's not just a friendship, and we're not just best friends. Like, he's my brother, and he's my brother first, and he's my business partner 2nd.
Right.
So I'm gonna always have his back no matter what.
Yeah.
And if we fail together. And if we win together.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, they studied, this is a big business lesson for anybody, is they looked at culture, and they said the Marines, the Navy SEALs, they have this culture of success. You send a team in, you know they're going to be successful 99% of the time. And so they asked them, they said, why are you willing to sacrifice your life for this mission? Is it because you really believe in the mission? They all said no. They said, well, is it because you love your country and you're defending your country? I said, absolutely not. That's not it. He goes, what is it? He goes, because I know the person next to me would take a bullet for me,
Bingo.
so I'll take a bullet for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the
priceless.
culture.
Yeah.
And in any organization, you build a culture where the team members defend each other, stick up for each other, help each other. We always say, you know, because there's a saying, the customer's always right. And I go, absolutely not. My team member's always right. My team is always right.
Yeah.
I've like Aspen or Terry that work the front desk at the two offices.
Yeah.
I go, listen, anytime someone accuses you of something, I am going to take your side every single time. I know you. I picked you, and I've trained you. Listen, I don't know them.
Awesome.
So I'm going to back you. And so they need to be comfortable. Hey, yeah, she'll make mistakes. That's okay.
That's
Because
right.
I'm still
Yeah,
going to
that's
help her
right.
with that
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
And that's how we got to
Yep.
be. That's a team that succeeds. We were sitting in a conference, and Tom Brady was one of the speakers. And so this guy named Patrick Bet-David was interviewing Tom Brady for 90 minutes. He goes, how did you build a winning culture? He said, I would watch other teams. And he goes, when a team, you guys know football, he goes, when I would see someone get a sack or score a touchdown, and they're celebrating, but their teammates aren't celebrating with them, because I knew we could take that team.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if I see someone tackle someone and the whole team runs over and they're all celebrating together, he goes, I'd be afraid of that team.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's what I wanted to
That's a
build.
real team.
That's a real
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Not just a bunch of players on the field at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about Ronnie Coleman, and he was a police officer.
Yes.
You're a police officer.
Yeah.
Was
How did
so.
you get into the serving and then come out of it?
So originally it was like out of high school. I definitely wanted to play football, which then I didn't, right? It's like you have all these things that you're going to do. Like it never goes the way you're supposed to have it all planned out. So, fell in love with the bodybuilding thing, but I was a criminal justice major. Okay. So part of me senior year was like, do I want to go the route of military? I was raised that way. I was very military-esque, very scheduled, I knew I would fit well. I had friends that were training to get in the military and stuff, and I'd read here and there, not a lot, but special forces and stuff like not everyone thinks they can just jump on special forces. Like, yeah, it doesn't
It's so
they're like,
easy,
oh
yeah.
yeah, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL, and I'm like,
No, you're
hey,
not.
hold on there, pump the brakes, dude.
Slow your roll.
Yeah. It doesn't really work like that. But like I thought, well, if I get in the military, I'll take the steps needed to go that route, or at least try to go that route and get as far as I can to do it, just like I do with everything. Kind of. I didn't deal with policing. So instead of the military route, I thought, okay, I'm just going to do criminal justice. Sounds cool. Maybe look to do DEA. I didn't want to be a cop. I wanted to go DEA. I wanted to be on a SWAT team of something of like the federal side of things. Because I'm like, I don't want to be normal. I want to do something that's,
Of course.
that's like a theme. Thanks, Dad. And Bobby. So went through 4 years of school from Shippensburg University, got my degree, and then I was junior and senior year. I started applying to police jobs all around Virginia, Maryland. They paid more. That's the only reason I went to Maryland.
Yeah.
PA was like, if you're not a trooper, you have to go through a whole different process. Long story, but it was the only place like Virginia, Maryland, where you could get paid in the academy, and then you're making money while you're being trained. I was like, well, that makes sense. I'm going to do that, and they get paid well. So I went down to Howard County. I got selected there out of like 8 or 9 places I applied to in the area. Howard County is great. The police force is great. I have brothers, sisters for life there. I love being a cop. I did. There was a lot of things I didn't like being a cop for, but there's a lot of things that I wouldn't. I'll put it to you this way: I wouldn't change my life as being a police officer for 8 years. I've been in really bad situations, really great situations. I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
You see a lot more than you even think you'll see.
Or you ever want to see.
Or you ever want to see, yeah. So the biggest thing there, though, with policing, and it kind of stems back to all these things we were talking about, I like adrenaline. I like the rush. I like being in bad spots. So when really hot calls come out, and I don't know if we're allowed to swear, but like hitting the fan, oh yeah, I'm like, yes, that's where I want to be. I want to be in that. I want to be where it's really bad. I want to be in it. So that was fun. It was kind of fun for me to do that. So I miss that. I miss it a lot. When someone needs help, like we're going in, no matter how bad it is. And I had a great squad, like the best squad a cop could ask for. You talk about brotherhood and like people having your back and being able to trust someone while there's someone with a gun on the other side of a door or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
What year was this?
It was 2014. I was in the academy to 2021. Going, yeah, it was going.
Because we started the gym end of 22.
So it was like 7 year going. I was like going into year 8.
Yeah.
And all that's the exact era where politically and socially people were not respecting the uniform.
Changed a lot from
Yeah.
year 1 to year 8. Unbelievable change. When we were in year 1, man, we were running and gunning, man. It was fun. Those were hot calls. Those were we got after it. And then things changed, and you start getting, I won't go down the whole political side of things, but
Yeah.
it wasn't fun being a cop.
Right.
Right.
It really wasn't fun being a cop. And as the years went on, it was like, and during this time I'm bodybuilding the whole time, right?
Sure.
And in a lot of ways, other than protecting myself and protecting my brothers and sisters, my squad, I was a bodybuilder first and a cop second. And if you ask anyone at Howard County Police, that's where I was. The only interest I ever had was TAC team. And the only reason I tried out one year and I failed in like the second exercise or whatever we did. It was like sit-ups. And everyone was like, I walked out and one of the guys was like, where are you going? I said, I failed. He said, what? He's like, shut up, dude. I said, I swear to God, I just failed. And he's like, I said, I missed it by one. I was bulking at the time. I was like 200 pounds when I should have been like, I was like 170, 175, and I pushed up over 200 unnecessarily because I was like, I just got to get huge right now. Wow. And dude, I could barely walk upstairs. Well, I didn't train for it because I'm like, I'm an athlete. I can get through this test. Well, I didn't get through the test.
That's fun.
It reminds me, I think, what was it, a week or so ago? I saw you in the gym and said something about abs. You're like,
Oh, yeah, it's like abs. Yeah, they're my worst nightmare. But yeah, that's what it was. It was my abs failed me. So anyway, I didn't really have any.
For the record, I'm not a fan of sit-ups.
Yeah, is anyone?
From a chiropractor standpoint.
Good.
Yeah, well,
never
yes,
doing
I
that
agree
again.
with that too. I agree with that. But yeah, so that was my life as a police officer, and everyone knew at the department that I'm the bodybuilder. So I used to do training programs for people and coaching and all that, even in college, near the end of college, because everyone knew me in college as the bodybuilder. Everyone knew me in policing for 8 years as the bodybuilder. So I kind of coached on the side and started getting some decent transformations, and that kind of led into my coaching and all that stuff. But yeah, that was my career there. I forgot what we were talking about before the
No, you just asked about
police stuff.
being a
But
police officer.
Yeah, just how you got
now,
that.
how did you guys meet?
This concludes part 1 of this podcast episode. Part 2 will continue next Monday, September 16th. Thank you for listening.